What's up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back to Checkmate Gaming and my Hold Shift, and we're breaking down all of the action from day 2 at CDL, Florida, and it was a day of a lot of surprises. Let's just dig in. There's a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any of our time. Straight into Group A, we'll deal with the winners qualifier first. It was Toronto playing up against Minnesota. I thought for sure Minnesota would have no problem at all with Toronto. Simply put, Minnesota's the better respawn team. Shouldn't be a world where Minnesota drops in 5 to a Toronto team. Especially considering the map set looked very good for Minnesota from the get-go. Hackney Yard Hardpoint would be up first. Minnesota's been incredible here all the way throughout, but Toronto kept them close all the way through. You got to respect the effort, and when things were about to start to turn in Minnesota's favor, going from P5 the first rotation all the way back over to getting those P2 spawns near the tire shop, Toronto got blessed with a couple of spawns right in the backside of Minnesota, and honestly speaking, that was what the decider of the game was. 250, 192, Toronto take first blood. Okay, interesting. Now we go to Search and Destroy, a map mode that Toronto's been relatively good at throughout the year, one of their biggest strengths. This is where Minnesota needed to be better. And, well, they mostly were in the backhand of a couple of super fast game rounds through Piccadilly, right through the buses and things of that nature. And with that, it paid off nicely for a couple of numbers advantages. And like yesterday, even the low number situations were turning up in favor of Minnesota when they needed to, giving them the W here 6-4. We go 1-1 in the map count. Back to Hackney Yard, domination. This is where Minnesota has looked really good throughout the year. One of their best maps. But today, Methods was some other kind of creature as he had his way here and ruined a lot of the single-handed OE pushes that were coming from the C side of the map for Minnesota. Plus, he helped influence a couple of late strong rotations for Toronto to get them a little bit of a clutch up, and that was enough for them to get the win. 157-149, Minnesota in trouble. And we go to Ramaza Hardpoint, where Minnesota has not necessarily been great win-loss ratio, but they've played a number of close games here. This one wouldn't be close, as Methods again kept the fever going all the way throughout. Ramaza 250, 109 to Toronto, sending Minnesota to the losers bracket, and Toronto gets into the playoff through the winner's side of Group A. Never thought in a million years I would have seen that. So then we jump to the losers knockout round between New York and Florida. New York looked a little sleepy yesterday. They played okay, but they played a little sleepy. In Florida, yeah, they got 3-0'd by Minnesota, but it was all very close throughout those three maps. New York, though, this time through, Ramaza Hardpoint, they woke up. Again, a couple of blessed spawns did lead to a few easier breaks on some hard points than what Florida was able to respond to. With that 250-194, New York draws first blood on the scoreboard. Okay, Ramaza, Search and Destroy. Area that we've seen New York has done well in, kind of surprisingly so, and it was chaos, simply put. Ramaza, mid-cafe, SMG on SMG action, blink and you'll miss it down to a 2v2 a number of different times, SMG battles everywhere, which turned up slightly in favor of New York. It was a 4-0 start for Florida, but New York would adjust and got their SMGs a couple of favorable gunfight wins to send things to a round 11. Mac would finish off 14-6. New York takes the round 11, 6-5. Florida in trouble from being not just put into the losers bracket, but knocked out completely. Now we go to the domination. New York 1-10 in Dom. Did we think they were really going to have enough to really get through this Florida team, who's very good at domination? Hackney Yard was the map. A map that New York, frankly put, has been putting a lot of work into throughout this weekend. New York would start down at the half from the good side, and for Florida, things would start looking up until a guy named Mac Melts turned open this entire game. A number of clean wipes in a row from the bad side led to another spawn flip situation and a full hold. New York would not just chew into the differential, but they would win convincingly 3-0, 177-143. Florida, bye-bye. And a little bit of an insight, Pristini, not an option anymore, apparently. Just waiting on league approval, but apparently Chicago has bought Pristini away from Florida. So things looking a little tense. We'll do another whole video on that at a different point. So again, make sure you subscribe to the channel here if you want to get caught up on some of that action that's coming forward in the next couple of weeks. Now we go to the pivotal decider, New York versus Minnesota. Would we see a world where neither Florida or Minnesota, the two at the beginning of the week I said, no chance they don't make it to the playoffs, would that actually occur? It would start off on Ramaza for the hard point first. Very back and forth affairs. Minnesota would try to win off of a last tick from the construction site in hill number 4. It wouldn't quite come through, and a last second contest from New York would send it to a P5. New York would hold perfectly for 30 or 40 seconds. 250 to 249 New York. Stunning Minnesota on the first map. St. Petro, search and destroy. Minnesota's been looking better when it comes to their search. Would it be good enough here? Temp hit us with a 1v4 in the midst of a super close series. Eventually, this round would go to a round 11, where New York would take the win off of a 2v2. New York up again 2-0 against Minnesota this time. Domination. True test. It's been good Hackney Yard all the way through the weekend for New York. Now they got Gunrunner. Is this team truly better, or were they just blessed off of the map mode combos? Mac would say, yes, we are in fact better. He had a 12-2 start, and that would lead to New York taking the first half and following up on the second, and a slim margin, 159 to 150 New York. 3-0's Florida, 3-0's Minnesota. And out of the Group A, Toronto and New York make the playoff. Color me surprised. I never in a million years would have thought that was going to be the case. But, hey, Toronto, like we mentioned at the very top of the prediction show from back on Friday, they had a couple of good games in their previous week. If they can get help to Cammy, they'll do all right. Methods showed up this weekend. Wild scenes. And we're not going to have Minnesota or Florida in the playoffs. So now we go over to Group B. Any more wildness in the mix? We'll start with Atlanta versus London, and this was wild for many reasons, but not necessarily because of the game score, but the game mechanics itself. Apparently, Scraps went AFK just before the map started for Hackney Yard Hardpoint. London's out team killing themselves for the first 3 hills. No restart coming through. They're forced to continue to play through. 250-104. Atlanta take a free win, essentially. The call, I don't know the specifics. I'm not going to put myself out there to give an opinion one way or the other. It's just unfortunate that we didn't get to see these guys match up on London's best hardpoint map. So now we go to search and destroy. Atlanta has been looking a little shaky in their search, and London would make sure that we all knew it. Smacked ATL around all over the place on Arklov. Some people in chat were talking about, oh, maybe they're just giving away a free map. They're throwing to make it an even series. I don't necessarily buy that. Atlanta was getting red. London's runouts were paying off. They were doing very well off the rip, and London simply put deserved to win that map as convincingly as they did. Hackney Yard domination. This is where Atlanta needed to really run away for this series, and it would not be a runaway. Super tight game. But then we got to the second half where Atlanta would do a better job from the A flag than London was able to do. They milked the clock just enough to make sure that they could essentially play for random neutrals all across the map, and that kept London just a touch off pace. 155-145, Atlanta up 2-1. Gunrunner hardpoint, this is where things would end. London was getting outclassed all the way through this map. 250-130, Atlanta make their way into the playoff as expected. Thank you for that, because I'm sure most people out there were mind blown. This was actually our first game of the day, so at this point we were all sitting here saying, oh, this is going as expected. But then we got Paris versus Optic Gaming LA in the losers knockout, and with this, Ramaz will be the first map up. Optic Gaming, Chino played well yesterday, Slasher played well yesterday. That would be the case once again, as they would just be able to outpace Paris throughout this map. 250-231, Optic take the first. Arklov Peak search. My concerns for Optic were in their search. Would they be able to get things going with a new addition so quickly? Paris would have a great start, up 4-2, but like they did against Atlanta, could not find a way to clutch up at the end. Dashy Sniper came into play massively on Arklov Peak, and with that, it would be a 6-4. 4 rounds in a row to Optic Gaming LA, up 2-0. St. Petro, domination. Optic Gaming LA put on one of the more beautiful spawn traps that we've seen so far on St. Petro. A triple cap one of the times, a good spawn trap the other, and when Chino played like he did today, there was no way that Optic Gaming LA was going to give up any sort of a lead. 174-133. So, London, Optic Gaming LA, true test here for both teams really. Is London able to make sure that they're still being better than teams that are rated lower than them? We'll find out. Azir K, first map up. Dylan had a good start to this, but Slasher and Chino just playing lights out. Optic Gaming, I remember watching these guys play this map opening weekend. They were 5 hitting scrap. They looked lost. That was not the case at all today. They played it nearly perfectly, 250 to 199. A very tight one as Optic Gaming take the first blood. St. Petro, search and destroy. What can I say? Optic Gaming looked completely unreal when it comes to their search this weekend. I don't know if it was just today, they just played well today, or what the deal was, but they took an easy 6-1 over London on map number 2. So then we would go for a Hackney Yard Dom. Would LA run away with this? Would London start a reverse sweep potentially? It was a great start for Optic, not going to lie. They looked really good, but again, they got a little bit too greedy for a couple of C neutrals when they really shouldn't have gone for them on Hackney Yard. And with that, London started to steamroll through the first half, up about 30 points, but Optic Gaming pumped the brakes a touch, set it on cruise control, played a nearly perfect second half from the A flag, chipped not just into the lead, but also find a way to get some well-timed neutrals and find themselves a 20-point win, 174 to 154. Oh my goodness. Never thought in a million years we were going to see the things that we saw today, but Atlanta and Optic make it through Group B. So your playoff bracket, again, I never in a million years thought this was going to be the case. Toronto plays Optic, Atlanta plays New York, and well, Nameless had a couple of bold picks at the end saying that New York beats Atlanta. Personally speaking, I can see a world where that maybe happens. The last time New York played Atlanta, it was not with the most amount of practice back at Chicago. They went map 5 and they took both hard points. If that continues, and Atlanta FaZe still look not so great on search, it could happen. It absolutely could happen. Don't rule it out. I'll let you make those predictions on your own. And then Toronto and Optic, the last series up to talk about. These two teams have not played yet before, but here's the big storylines to take away. Optic is now 4-0 in their last 4 dominations. Toronto, not that bad, 3 of their last 4, but before that, they looked really, really weak. And their wins this weekend were a 156 to 154 and a 157 to 149. I personally think that Optic make the grand finals, beating Toronto, and they will play up against, I'm going to take the safe pick and say Atlanta, which means that really you should be taking the opposite because the safe picks have not panned out at all yet this weekend. But I've got Optic Gaming making a grand finals, definitely beating Toronto. It's going to be a good series, I think, but again, I'm looking at just how Optic has played search through the weekend. Their hard point has been good. Their 2 losses were close ones, about 60 points each, and they have been frying on the domination. I've got Optic in that one in 4. And we'll just give a prediction. New York versus Atlanta. Honestly, again, New York has looked incredible when it comes to their hard point. My only question mark comes to Dom. I've got New York, I think, beating Atlanta 3-1 or maybe 3-2 in Game 5. I can see where Nameless is coming from. If you look at the stats alone, New York has played very well, where Atlanta has not necessarily played as well, where they're going to need to. I mean, that's all I can say about it, simply put. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be talking about the Pristini trade sometime coming up in the next week. We will also be doing not only a recap of the CDL playoffs, but also going through what happened in the Call of Duty Challengers home series that's been going on across all of the regions of the world. So make sure you subscribe on your way out. Until the next video, hope you guys keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.